news, notes, and analysis you need.
Go back. He looks, fires for the end zone. Intercepted. The 20, the 10, the 5. Touchdown. Matt Ware. Midfield. He's going to go. Deshaun Jackson. He steps up, he's hit, and falls forward. He fumbles the football, and the Eagles have it. It's gone. And the Eagles win.
It's all birds. All the time.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome to the AAT Birds weekly report here, not on a Wednesday, but on a Thursday instead. I am, of course, Chip at Chip for the Birds and Umpire Stories. Johnny will be joining us in just a few minutes, but right now, freshly back from the Senior Bowl, it's Mr. Philly, the podcast himself, Joe Castro. Joe, what's happening, buddy?
I'm chilling, man. I'm chilling. Like you said, just got off the jet lag. Now I'm back to feeling kind of normal. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited to talk about this Senior Bowl. It was a really fun time.
And it's funny because I think back to 1 year ago, right? And we weren't as geared up about having conversations about the Senior Bowl just 1 year ago. And it says a lot to me about how much can change in 1 year, where all of a sudden now we're kind of looking into that rookie class again and seeing, hey, what is it exactly that we are indeed looking for? So we're going to get into that. There's some Eagles news that's happened. There's, we don't need to talk about coordinators or anything like that because that's already happened. There's drama from the alums. I don't know if you heard about the most recent player taking a shot at Donovan. So we're going to talk about that. There's been some things in the Eagles world, and then obviously the Super Bowl is this weekend, so I see you're wearing the appropriate Chief and or 49er color red, so I'm sure you're rooting for one of those teams, and we're getting into all that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not going to be rooting for either one of them. The red was a bad choice, now looking back.
It's the Super Bowl that nobody wanted.
It really is. At least there's two villains. I feel like, it's always a cool storyline to have the villains. You got two of them, right? Like, nobody really wants to see the 49ers win. Nobody really wants to see the Kansas City Chiefs win if you're not a fan of those respective teams. So it sucks, but it is what it is. I keep telling myself I'm not going to watch it, but I know I'll probably end up, sitting there watching it.
100% going to watch it. We are football junkies. There's no way you're not watching the Super Bowl.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And you can say that it's, for the – you and I were both going to watch the Super Bowl for the Usher halftime show.
I think that, the halftime show should be good. The commercials, right? Everybody looks forward to the commercials. I don't know. I'm sure I'll enjoy the game.
It's going to be tough.
At some point, it's going to be a good game, and I'm going to be like, all right, at least it's good football. But, yeah, screw both of them. All
right, well, let's get into it. So you have ventured down to the Senior Bowl. This is your second year doing it, right?
No, this is actually my first for the Senior Bowl, but I've been to the draft and combine.
Yeah. So give me some initial takeaways. Talk to me a little bit about the experience. Talk to me a little bit about some things you saw, some things that you really liked, players that maybe surprised you. Kind of give me your initial takeaways.
It was an awesome experience as far as experiences go. I said this before. I'll say it again. I think even if you're not, going there credentialed, I think as just like a fan, it's really a cool thing to go to. I mean, you're literally right next to a bunch of reporters, so even if you're not going credentialed, I think that it's worth it. But being able to, take it that extra step and meet a lot of these kids was really cool too. But it was a talented couple of rosters. And it was fun to really see them guys go at it all week, because this is probably the first time that I feel like you can make a whole mock draft. Okay. With just these Senior Bowl kids. Sometimes most years it's like maybe you got one or two first-round guys. Here you had a bunch of good first-round guys. You had some good second-round guys. You had some of the later-round picks, mid-round picks. So you really had a little bit of everything from this draft. So it was really cool to be able to kind of see them go at it. So it was, like I said, an amazing experience. Excited to kind of compounded now with the combine and the draft itself and these pro days and really see where these kids fall.
Yeah, and it's so tough because, and it's the same thing with most college sports now. You mentioned something like the Senior Bowl, and the Senior Bowl historically mattered a lot. And then most of the younger talent, as soon as they hit that, they've done 2 years of college. If they're our first round talent, they're coming out. So even though you're going to the Senior Bowl, you're missing out on some of the guys who are going to get drafted very, very high. So let me ask you this, because you do the college thing a little bit. We talk a lot about bowl games and how some players opt out of bowl games. And then there's things like the Senior Bowl and the draft days and the combine. What, in your opinion, is still the most important showcase of a young college player, senior or not?
I think, this is going to sound like a cop-out, but your full tape, really tells the story. Like you can't just go on, and I'm somebody that was trying to make sure I didn't fall victim to that, and I was saying that to myself all week, is like, don't forget what you saw for what, falling in love with what you see, because you see these kids out there playing, and while it might be, a lot to out there at the edge position, making a guy that's probably going to go in the 5th or 6th round look pretty good. You don't want to sit here and be like, oh, maybe Latu's not that great, or maybe this guy that I had a 5th round grade on is way better than I thought. So it's tough to say any one thing is really like the biggest thing. But I will say that I think the Senior Bowl is becoming more closer to that one thing, because you're getting all of the great talents, and you brought up these young kids that go out early. I think that you're starting to see that go down, that number of people that go down just because of these NIL deals, right? You see these kids getting money out the rear end now. So,
and that was always the issue, the fact of these guys couldn't get paid. So, you know what? Let me get out of the dangerous college game as soon as possible and get that first contract. But now with the NIL deals, like you look at a guy like Shedeur Sanders, he's going to make more this year as a college football player than he will as an NFL player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's like, at what point does it become not worth it, like you said, to risk your body and go to the NFL and risk the potential of where you fall, right? If you're not a number one pick, what's the real rush to go to the NFL, I guess? But no, you see it with kids. You see it with guys like Spencer Rattler, who I feel like has been in, college football for 20 years. You look at a lot of these guys.
I don't know who's moved more in conferences. Like I look at some of the teams and they're like, I'm in the Big Ten, I'm in the Pac-10. Spencer Rattler has hit like all of them. I think he's trying to cross off a bingo card.
He tried everything. It's funny because I know that the Eagles talk to everybody out there, right? They have scheduled meetings with every prospect. They can ask for more time, but a lot of these, and it's not to take a shot at anybody, but I see a lot of people say, "Oh, this guy meeting with this guy meeting." Everybody met. So unless it was like a second meeting, it really doesn't hold too much weight. I don't want to say it's not important, but it doesn't hold too much weight. But with that being said, you saw some kids that have Ray Davis, right, out of Kentucky. He's considered an older prospect. But I think that you're going to start looking at this and see it as more of a trend, because it makes sense to go to the Senior Bowl. Like, you're learning how to speak with the media a little bit earlier. And I will give it to the Senior Bowl that they really constructed it well, right? Mm-hmm. They have areas that are kind of like real game status, where you'll have the reporters come out on the field and talk to you. We had those periods, but you also had periods that it looked like the combine. It looked like they put out a couple of booths. You could speak to the players, but they were also kind of commingling. So it allows you to kind of grow in that aspect. That's not something you can really practice, right? Having a bunch of people run in your face. And you do that before the combine, because what I ask him now can be changed over the course of the next couple months, right? He can have a totally different answer at the combine that's a little bit more thought out. So I think it's a good first step for a lot of these kids. And I think you're going to start seeing these 23, 24-year-old first-round picks be a little bit more common, because it just makes sense, to be honest.
Yeah, and Andrew chiming in here saying, people have Sanders projected as a first or second round pick in next year's draft. Me personally, I think a lot of it's going to depend on how healthily he gets out of this upcoming season. Because you saw the Colorado players, they started off strong, and then it kind of fell apart as they remembered what they were the year before. And I mean, it was a rough I was so excited about Colorado, and then it kind of just
I think we kind of got ourselves a little bit too excited.
Way ahead of ourselves.
You know, I respect it though. I mean, he earned it. You can't say he didn't earn that overhyping of them. But yeah, they came down to earth. It wasn't. I wouldn't say it was shocking. I think that the wins that they did get was more shocking than the losses they had.
And they were entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, they played ball. I think they need to get more depth. The portal is going to be definitely a big aid to them.
Right.
You know, they're going to make it happen because Colorado, I've lived out in Colorado. It's not a bad sale. It really is not. Outside of the cold every now and then, it's not a bad sale. So I think he'll figure something out for Colorado, and it'll be exciting to see what happens with Shedeur. I don't know where he is. I've never honestly watched him with the lens of we need a quarterback. What does this guy do good? So he's fun to watch. You know,
he is.
I couldn't tell you he's a perfect prospect though.
And it's funny because Andrew's saying I think he has problem reading the blitzes. I don't think it was so much reading the blitzes as he had no offensive line at all in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's so hard to really judge him.
But all right, so you did a nice segue. You said quarterback. Obviously, and I say obviously, the Eagles are pretty dang locked in at their quarterback. Whether or not people, agree or disagree, or, they're focused on the fact that, our college quarterback, could squat 600 pounds in college, but he can't read a blitz and he can't pass the ball. And, Philadelphians are going to Philadelphia. And we know that. Mm-hmm. The Eagles are not in the quarterback market. I'm going to go on record saying it. We're not in the quarterback market. However, there are some senior quarterbacks that were there. Sam Hartman from Notre Dame, Michael Penix Jr., who probably had some Heisman type numbers. Bo Nix, those guys were all on the national roster. So talk to me a little bit about those three guys and what you saw from them.
Bo Nix, I actually got to speak to Bo. It's a funny story because it was the first day we go in there and Bo Nix was available to speak to everybody. So the question right before me was basically, people are saying you can't read the blitz. People are saying you can't really read a defense, that your footwork is terrible. And literally the whole, there's like probably 30 reporters in there. Excuse me. And we all just kind of look at this guy like, really, bro? Like on the first day? But yeah, so I mean, there's definite, people know what Bo Nix is, but he looked good. I will say the national team looked really good. The national team in general looked really good. Michael Penix didn't really have any off days. Bo Nix, he didn't have really any off days. Sam Hartman he didn't do anything crazy. The offense, it was really tough to judge during those practice periods because most of the time, outside of a couple of 11-on-11s, it's one-on-ones, right? It's
right.
Him reading maybe the linebackers or maybe one cornerback. So it wasn't really labor intensive for them. But as far as speaking, they spoke well. They, were available most of the times. On the other side of the rosters, I guess I should say, Spencer Rattler, Joe Milton was out there. Michael Pratt, I don't believe I saw too much of him. But Bradley Carter, I saw Carter Bradley, excuse me, I saw him. I'll start with the good, I guess. Carter Bradley really surprised me.
Okay.
He's somebody that I would not be mad at looking at in the late rounds. I've actually mocked him a couple times in the Eagles. He had some off-base throws. He had some, in the pocket movement that I really liked. He wasn't perfect. He just jumped out at me. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't all these guys, again, it was hard to really see anything that was outside of a practice setting, right? You're not seeing game time reps. So outside of that, nobody really jumped out at me except for Carter Bradley, to be 100% honest. It just felt like he just was moving a little bit different. But Spencer Rattler, I watched him. I did not. The first day, it looked really bad. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. It was just his feet were happy. And after that much time in the college ranks, you're getting coached by some pretty good coaches. It's not like you're getting coached by, terrible coaches. So,
and he's been around with so many programs that he's really seen a variety. Like, I look at a guy like Spencer Rattler, and then I'll let you get back to your point. I look at a guy like Spencer Rattler, and he's worked in a bunch of colleges. He's worked in a bunch of offenses. He's worked with a bunch of coaches. He's almost like the ideal candidate to insert into any offense in the NFL with some work because he's had the experience of working with so many different guys. But you're saying that he still doesn't have NFL caliber ability from what you saw.
I wouldn't want him on the Eagles. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
I will say the second day looked a lot better. He was a lot more settled in, and you can blame it on whatever you want to do. He stuck out to me, but in a bad way.
Right.
It was like after, especially small. He is a smaller guy. I believe he just a little bit over 6 foot. So he's literally just a little bit over 6 foot. 219 is what he weighed in at the Senior Bowl. So I know people like Michael Penix, but I don't think he'll go where it makes sense for the Eagles to draft a quarterback.
That
to
was
be 100% honest.
That was my next question. Is Michael Penix is his biggest knock? He has two big knocks from what I have seen. Is his age, which is he's going to be a 24-year-old quarterback rookie, and then he got banged up in that national championship game, like to the point of. I am surprised that man was able to walk away. So, was he still showing any effects of that? And is the age something that people are legitimately worried about, or is that just a narrative that people are pushing?
He looked fine. I'll be 100% honest with you. If you didn't tell me that he had an injury, you would have never known. Like if you didn't have seen that game, or if you didn't see what happened that game, you would have never known. He looked good. Albeit there is about a month, maybe a little bit less that they had off. So that always helps. But, yeah, he didn't look nowhere until he looked good out there. I will say that. All the quarterbacks, with the exception of – and it's not to hate on Spencer Rattler. He had one really bad day, though. I will say that.
But sometimes that's all it takes.
That's what I'm saying, especially when you're not in a real high-pressure situation. I didn't feel like any of the offensive, drills that they ran with the defense were really – too crazy. I mean, you're in shorts, it's not like, I don't know, just to see a quarterback that jumpy in there, and then you compare him with a guy like Carter Bradley, who's probably mocked around the 7th, 6th round. It's kind of like, all right, why, he looks a lot better right now. He just looks like he's comfortable. Carter Bradley looks. So I don't know. Again, I'm not sitting here really analyzing the quarterbacks, whereas if we had a quarterback situation, it's kind of just me watching them. So people will make their own assumption. But I do think that, I said it before, I think 24-year-old rookies are going to probably become a little bit more common. They do accept juniors in the Senior Bowl, so that was new this year, which was awesome. But at the end of the day, I do think that it's going to be a little bit more common. You have kids, and I think that this makes more sense for me. You have kids that know how to handle money. I understand wanting to have a young person throughout the 2 contracts. I get that part of it. But you got a young kid that's coming out of college that knows how to handle money, knows how to be a face of organizations and businesses, right? Because those NIL deals are businesses. And you have a kid that's played a lot of football. So I think that those are all good things. I think that it'll start kind of shifting towards that because the players are going to stay. I mean, it doesn't make sense for them to leave. So they're probably going to stay. You add the transfer portal, with the NIL deals. These kids can go and basically try and win rings, right? They can go and try and win national championships, especially with the playoffs expanding. It just all spans to me. It's going to probably be older rookies, which good. Go get that money. Go get that money and learn how to spend that money. Learn how to be a professional before you get thrown $15-20 million and don't know what to do with it.
So are you saying that the Tony Dungy School for Rookies is not going to need to be held anymore?
Yeah, but it might not. He might be out of a job. He might be not.
That symposium always cracked me up because it was such a necessity. Because then you hear the horror stories of these kids who are getting that first bit of money. But I do think that the NIL deals are important. All right, so listen, we're not going to spend 45 minutes talking about quarterbacks. I know I know we're a Philadelphia Eagles podcast, but we're not going to talk about quarterback the entire time. So you went to the Senior Bowl. You obviously looked at a variety of players. You looked at a variety of positions. You saw players that would be good fits with the Eagles, players that would maybe be a stretch for the Eagles, but would be kind of that nice ace in the hole to have. So talk to me about players and the positions that impressed you the most.
I think that this week really showcases like the trenches.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, because it's always fun to see a bunch of big guys going at it. You know what I'm saying? Just knocking each other off their spot. So it's nice to see that. I will say, I want to make sure I don't say anybody's name wrong, but Brandon Fisk out of Florida State, I think he really made himself some money this weekend. I've said it before, or this week, I should say. Yeah, I said it before. I think he's really, really cemented his name in this draft. I don't know if he's going to move up crazy or anything like that, but I think that he's one of those guys that he showed out. He showed out. He's quick from the inside. He has the body. He's a little bit shorter than you want, but he just makes up for it with that explosiveness. He really does. He was all over the field. He was killing it. Staying on the defensive line. Who else do I want to talk about? Javondre Sweat is an interesting guy. A lot of people were excited to see him coming in. He's a big guy. They have him at 6'4", 292. But he looks way bigger than that. Let me make sure that was him. Excuse me. Yeah, they don't even have his weight. Excuse me. They have him at 6'4", though. I know he was more than 292.
My man broke the scale.
He was a big fella. But, he's another guy. The first day wasn't that great. I will say he looked like he was kind of average. He looked like, okay, he's a run stopper. We went into the second day kind of being like, all right, maybe he's more of just a run stopper. But the second day, he was just mauling cats. He was just knocking people off. So it was really, really impressive. He really impressed me. I was able to talk to him. He called it rust when I asked him about the kind of difference between day one and day two. He just said I had a month off. I was kind of rusty, and I'll buy it.
Which is valid. I mean, especially like, you mentioned guys like from Florida State who basically sat their entire team for their bowl game. That is a lot of time off, especially when you are coming from a situation where you are, practicing in the morning, lifting every day. I mean, you are working hard. And then, it's the same thing with the NFL players. They kind of go into hibernation mode. So for some of these guys, it is the idea that month off is a problem. I just personally feel having never gone through the process. If I know I've got the Senior Bowl coming up, I'm staying in a routine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the first day, a lot of people looked it was kind of slow. I think everybody was trying to kind of figure each other out.
Sure.
I wouldn't say they were out of shape or anything. Everybody was trying to figure out what's going on. But the second day, everybody really turned up. I really do feel like that. And staying on the defensive line, Disa Isaac from Penn State, I know a lot of people probably know who he is. He went crazy throughout the Senior Bowl. He was doing his thing. It was really, really fun to watch him. And I'm going to probably say his name wrong, but I'm going to try to say it anyways. Latu, he's been going crazy. He's one of those guys that could be a top 20 person. And then a lot of people have been talking about, what is his name? Let me make sure. I want to say it was Darius Robinson, but I want to make sure I say his name right. Pretty sure that was his name.
Which roster was he on, the American or the National?
Darius Robinson. Yeah, Darius Robinson. They had him at – I just want to – because these
from Missouri. Yep.
Really, from Missouri. But they had him at 6'5", 286 pounds. That boy was eating. That boy was going crazy. He was killing it off the edge. So it was fun to watch this defensive line. And then offensive line, you had some dogs as well. Offensive, and I just want to make sure because I have the sheet of all their names and notes on who I like. But Talise Fuaga from Oregon State, he really did well. Jordan Morgan from Arizona has a little bit shorter arms than people like, but he did very well. And he looks like a guy that can probably move on the inside if you really want him to. Offensive line as well. Obviously, you got Jackson Powers Johnson, who is a big name for the Eagles fans. But he was the best offensive lineman in the whole week, easily. It was one of those things that he didn't necessarily buy him more stock. It was just kind of like, all right, yeah, he's definitely he's a first rounder. He's a first rounder even at the center position, and he can move around. Another guy that moved around was Christian Haynes out of Connecticut, UConn. He was offensive guard throughout the year, but he played a little bit of center at the Senior Bowl. I believe he played all week at center, actually, in the Senior Bowl. And then another guy was Christian Jones from Texas. He played very well. So there's some definite guys at offense and defensive line. And then cornerback, I mean, everybody knows what Kenyon Mitchell did. Kenyon Mitchell did his thing. He's definitely probably going to go mid to late first round, maybe early day two if you're lucky. But he might be there for the Eagles. He would be an interesting guy. I got to talk to Cameron Kitchens out there. He was really, really good if we're looking at safety. A guy that I really like even going into this process was Malik Mustafa out of Wake Forest. He's a safety. He's a little bit smaller. I think he's 5'10", 5'11". Let me see what they got him listed as. They have him listed as 5'9". So
Mm-hmm.
they have him at 5'9", but 5'9" and 7, you know, so I mean, it's close. It's close.
Well,
But
it's
he's
so
versatile.
funny because I hear you mentioning some of the intangibles that we've heard about, you know, the height and the weight and the hand size and the wingspan and all that stuff. And I think that are we getting to a point in the NFL where, yeah, we're going to look at all those things, but we're not going to fixate on it as much. Like the hand size with Kenny Pickett a couple years ago. I mean, that's still a running joke because he hasn't proven himself. But like Devontae Smith, everybody ragged on him about his weight, and he's a top tier wide receiver in the NFL. So regardless of what those numbers were, if you can play, you can play.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I agree 100%. I just know that there's certain parameters that NFL teams look at. So some people might look at 5'9" safety and be like, oh, I'm good with that. But I think that he's very versatile. He's a guy that he's played everywhere for Wake Forest. I mean, literally, right. I spoke to him, and he even said, he was like, my favorite assignment was playing everything, basically playing in the Panther package where he can be deployed anywhere. So, you know, he's played D-line. He's played on the D-line. He's played in the box as a safety. He's played cornerback. He's played inside cornerback, outside. He's done a little bit of everything and a good amount of a little bit of everything. So I think he's a guy that could really make sense for the Eagles.
And that's, to me, a guy that when you have a guy like that showcases two things to me. Number one, it shows versatility and athleticism, right? It shows that you are a guy who can go and do a whole bunch of things. And that there's that weapon factor of how do you want to deploy me? You see that a lot with a guy like Christian McCaffrey on the other side of the ball, who you can do whatever you want with him. Debo Samuel, you can do whatever you want with him. Like that weapon has, you know, it's a Swiss Army knife, a switchblade. The other thing it shows me is team first mentality. Mm-hmm. Where do you need me? You got it.
Yeah. And another guy with that same type of mentality, Cole Bishop at the position. He's a safety as well. I got to talk to him. He was a really cool kid. Yeah, a lot of these people were really cool. But yeah, if I'm the Eagles, I'm taking at least one of these defensive linemen, probably one of the offensive linemen, and probably at least one of the linebackers. I kind of low-key want two of these linebackers. I'm not going to lie to you. I like Peyton Wilson. If we can marry him with a guy like Jeremiah Trotter or, you know, Edgerrin Cooper, or even out of this one, even out of here, what's his name from that was going crazy this.
You went linebacker happy?
There were so many linebackers. Cedric Gray out of North Carolina. He was doing his thing too. J.D. Bertrand was doing his thing. There was a lot of good linebackers. So if we can get like one or two of these guys from here, I'm cool with it.
So, all right, while we're talking about linebackers, and this ends up happening every single NFL draft with the Philadelphia Eagles fan base. They hone in on the one guy that they know, right? So your casual, regular, everyday fan, they hone in on the one guy. So many, many years ago, it was we're going to hone in on Marcus Mariota, and the draft was a fail because we didn't get Marcus Mariota. A couple of years after that, Micah Parsons. We didn't get Micah Parsons. The draft was a fail. We didn't get Justin Jefferson. That draft was a fail. It's the one guy they know. Is Jeremiah Trotter Jr. that guy this year? If the Eagles do not walk away with Jeremiah Trotter Jr., is the fan base going to say this draft was a fail?
I think a lot of fans will, but me personally, no, I don't care. I won't say I don't care. It would be awesome if we were able to get Jeremiah Trotter, but that's not what I'm really looking at in this draft.
That's like the Eagles fan in me.
Yeah, do not get me wrong. I would love to get a Trotter Jr. jersey. You know what I'm saying? I would love for him to be an Eagle.
And it's got to be number 54.
Yeah, facts. But there's a lot of good players in this draft, especially at the linebacking position. I think there's some really good talent at the linebacking spot. So if we don't get Jeremiah Trotter, I would be upset. I would be a little, damn, we missed the opportunity, especially if we pass on him like once or twice. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that would kind of upset me if we pass on him like once or twice. But if, he gets taken, it is what it is. I'm not going to really lose sleep over it. But, yeah, it would be cool.
I mean, and it's tough because, you spend a lot of times at the Senior Bowl analyzing linebackers. The Philadelphia Eagles fan base has analyzed linebackers. They know we need linebackers and linebackers. We saw what happens when you don't have linebackers. The final 4 teams in the NFL this season all had linebackers. You saw this season with the Eagles how linebacker play mattered. We've let free agents go at the linebacker position. Is this the year that Howie goes full Joe Castro, goes full Philly the podcast, and actually looks at a gosh darn linebacker?
I feel like these guys are staring you in the face, but I also felt like that last year about the running back class. So
knowing we were parting with Miles Sanders.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, last year we could have literally drafted one of like 10 different running backs and been fine. This year you probably have like a solid, I'll say 5 linebackers that can start for you right now and make your defense better. So
yeah.
I feel like you should. I feel like either in the first round or even one of your seconds, you have the assets. Go ahead and do it. Like they have the assets and they have the players, and they have the players in this draft to be able to go and say, let's worry about linebacker and safety in our first 3 picks. And you're going to get some real good starters. You're going to get some guys that are going to be with your team for a while. So I think he should, but I don't think he will. Unfortunately, I've seen it far too many times, and I've hoped for it far too many times, so I don't think he will.
Yeah, I mean, it's so tough. Okay. Obviously, we talked about positives. Is there anybody that you saw? And if, obviously, you do a good job talking to the players, so if you don't want to mention them by name, kind of just do the roundabout thing. Is there any player that you saw perform so poorly that their draft stock just they plummeted a solid round or 2?
I won't go as far as saying a solid round or 2, but it's gonna hurt saying this. And if he's somehow sees this and hears this, I'm sorry, dog. Prove me wrong. But Kalen King was getting worked all week. It was bad. It was actually really bad. Every day I felt like me and the guys we were talking, like me and the guys I was talking to at the practices, I felt like we were always like, what's going on with Kalen? Well, he was just getting beat every single time. I mean, I will say, to his defense, it is one-on-ones. It is, that's usually advantage offense, right? But he couldn't cover anybody. Every time he was out there, he was getting just beat on a route. So it was really bad for Kalen King. I won't say that he's going to drop drastically, but if people had him in the first round, they're probably reconsidering now. I'll say that much.
Yeah, it's just so wild because then we're gonna do the same thing with the NFL combine. We're gonna do the same thing with the senior days, and unfortunately, I mean these guys. We already mentioned that their whole body of work, that their tape matters, but then we mentioned the fact of, they are under such a microscope moving forward, and they're either going to excel, do as expected, or they are going to fall off the face of the earth. And again, the other thing, we spent the first 15 minutes of the show talking about quarterbacks. So just while I have you, knowing that the first couple picks are going to be quarterbacks in this draft, talk to me about the overreaching of some of these young quarterbacks that probably shouldn't be first round picks, but they're going to be anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably going to see some of these guys go. I mean, when you look at who really needs a quarterback, that's really, I guess you got to, because the Bears, if they trade out, that's one less person, that's one less team. Who else is up there? The Commanders.
The Commanders are taking a quarterback.
I'm cool with them taking one of these guys, especially if they're going to take. Again, don't quote me on any of this because I haven't really done too much in-depth homework on quarterbacks. But if I'm taking a guy like Caleb Williams, I'm having doubts. I'm having terrifying doubts.
That's my thing. Like, I don't think that Caleb Williams should be a top pick. I think that he was in the spotlight this entire season, and he failed to meet and reach expectations.
Mm-hmm. I think a great quote comes to my mind, and it's when people show you who they are, believe them. And I feel like Caleb has showed who he is. And I'm not trying to sit here and bash him personally. I don't know him personally. But I feel like he showed you who he is when the spotlight's on him, when things are going, all glamorous and stuff like that. He kind of doesn't. Yeah, he didn't seem like a good leader. I'll say that much. He didn't seem like a a guy I want on my team. He was making a lot of mistakes down the stretch.
Yeah.
And it felt like it was him and then the team. It never felt like it was him and the team. Every time he was upset, he was upset, right? Like, I don't know. It just felt weird. It didn't feel genuine. It felt disingenuous. And then, like, a lot of the stuff that he was saying about, teams that were going to draft him, like, oh, if it's this team, I'll go back to school or this. It's like, bro, come on now. Like, you're not even, your team didn't even go to the playoffs. Like, you guys didn't even, I don't think they made a bowl game, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like, bro, like, I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't talk. Maybe you should just, like, be upset that your team isn't what they should be. Instead, you're more into where you're going to get drafted next year. I don't know. I think there's a lot of red flags with
I agree. And then you look at the fact that, like, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to fall to, 4 or 5, and he's a top tier talent. You look at a guy like Brock Bowers, as far as tight ends go, he's a top tier talent. I just don't necessarily agree that, Drake May should be the number 2 overall pick to the Commanders.
Yeah. And I think everybody's going to overreach this year. I don't think
they always do with quarterbacks. They always do.
I think this year it's depth-wise better. I think that this year there's more good quarterbacks, but I don't think that there's any franchise-changing quarterbacks. And I could be wrong. But I don't think this is the year you're going to get a guy that switches your cheek. Everybody wants to find Brock Purdy, though. And that's the new cool thing, right? Like, everybody wants to find that next, he's out of nowhere. Or everybody wants to find C.J. Stroud. Like, it doesn't happen like that. It'll be interesting because the Commanders are now like the Philadelphia, Washington, Dallas Commanders. So it's kind of weird. We'll see what happens with them. So it really comes down to coaching, and it comes down to organizational, like, structure. If you have a team and a culture that is, like, toxic, nobody's going to win. Nobody's going to be good. It doesn't matter who you draft. You can draft anybody in the world. It does not matter. You can draft Jesus himself. Your team's going to be trash because you're dysfunctional. And I think I just described what Washington is. So
and that's kind of so moving away from the Senior Bowl, just a couple quick hitters. Describing the Washington whatever they are, they have decided that Brian Johnson is a key part of their franchise moving into the next regime. Thoughts on Brian Johnson staying in division, but moving somewhere towards the Washington land?
It hurts. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. It hurts. It hurt. I won't even say it hurts. It sucks because I don't know who he is. And I've said this before. I don't feel like the Eagles ever let him be him. So if he does very well, I know that's going to sting. I know it's going to sting the Eagles. Obviously, we get to play him twice a year. It doesn't, I don't know. It doesn't move the needle for me as like far as.
And it's an unnamed, as of right now, it's an unnamed position.
Oh, so he's not even like a coordinator.
No, he's a key part of the offensive team.
Ah, I thought he was a coordinator. Yeah, it's a little weird. That's a little weird. Go to Detroit like Deuce did. Like, why you had to go to Washington? I don't know. It's a little weird. He probably salty. It's cool. I would be mad. I would be mad if I was him. I would feel kind of like but I wouldn't even say betrayed. I don't know. I would feel some type of way, as the kids would say. So I get it. I get if he's upset, but damn, that's just out of all teams. Yeah, I hope we blow him out though. I hope he doesn't get Jonathan Gannon type revenge.
All right. Well, speaking of former Eagles coaches, the NFL honors are happening right now. Jim Schwartz is the assistant coach of the year for the Browns.
Awesome.
C.J. Stroud won offensive rookie of the year.
Won defensive. Did they say defensive yet?
I haven't seen defensive rookie. Oh, yeah, I have. Will Anderson.
Damn.
Will Anderson won it, so they got.
Damn. They played my boy Jalen.
Damn. Defensive player of the year, Myles Garrett. So a Watt did not win that one. They mispronounced the coach of the year. They call him Steven Stefanski, but Kevin Stefanski is the coach of the year. He beat D'Amico Ryans by 1 first-place vote.
That's crazy.
They were 165 to 165, and Kevin Stefanski had 21 first-place votes. D'Amico Ryans had 20.
I would have gave it to D'Amico, but hey.
I mean, he took a a last place team and turn them into a playoff team. And obviously we're waiting on the Hall of Fame's newest members because that hasn't been announced yet. I'm really hoping that this is the year that Eric Allen, gets the respect he's rooting for. He deserves, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm hoping Eric Allen gets in. I just saw, who was it? Antonio Gates didn't get accepted in.
He didn't. Okay.
That's weird. That's like, I don't know. That's crazy to me. I don't know if it's that's per TMZ. So I don't know. TMZ covers everything apparently. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that.
Last topic real quick. And, Evan, I don't know if he's still watching. Yo, Chip, who you rooting for? Let's talk Super Bowl. I don't want to say that I'm actively rooting for either team. I'm really tired of the Kansas City Chiefs personally. Not for any other reason. I'm just really tired of the Kansas City Chiefs, but in no way can I root for the San Francisco 49ers. So go Chiefs for me.
I'm going for the refs. Is that
they're going to control the game anyway. So
yeah, shout out to the refs. Y'all been playing all year. Y'all really worked hard for this, and go ahead and win. If I'm going for anybody, I'm going for the Chiefs. Yeah, at least you have Andy Reid. At least, at the very, very least, Andy Reid. That's at the very, very least Andy Reid. And I'm trying to think who else. My boy, shout out to my guy Steph, Coach Steph, from Top Shelf Training. He coaches a bunch of the wide receivers for Kansas City, so that'll be a good look for him. And that's really all I got. That's I'm cool with Dante Hall. Shout out to Dante Hall if they win. But that's really all I got. That's really all
I mean, it's tough. It is really tough. I am kind of scouring the interwebs, and this could be way right, way wrong. I don't know. It says who made the NFL Hall of Fame 2024. It looks like the class is going to be Dwight Freeney, Devin Hester.
Dwight Freeney's from Connecticut. I just want to put that out there. He went to school right down the street from me. So shout out to Dwight. That is fire. Just
Devin Hester is interesting.
Yeah, shout out to Devin Hester. He deserves that.
Andre Johnson, again, deserving.
Definitely deserving.
Julius Peppers, deserving.
Definitely deserving, yeah.
Patrick Willis, deserving. And it looks like the senior nominees are Randy Gradishar, Steve McMichael, and Art Powell. So I don't know if that is accurate.
That's crazy.
I do not know if that is accurate. I am refreshing the site that I am on, but it seems like our guy is going to miss the Hall of Fame again.
That's crazy. Hey, I mean, shout out to everybody that got it. The Dwight Freeney one is actually kind of surreal. I'm actually really the inner child in me is geeking out right now. That's pretty cool because he is from literally down the street from my hometown. I used to play baseball on baseball fields that he played when he was in youth leagues and stuff like that. So shout out to Dwight Freeney, man. He put a whole state on the map by himself. You know what I'm saying? So I'm happy for him. But yeah, stop playing our guy. That's, you know what I'm saying? Outside of that little love fest, stop playing our guy, Eric Allen. That's actually insane. Him and Gates. I'm kind of surprised with Gates because that he was a dog. Why? What's the criteria?
I mean, he was a lights out tight end. He was.
Yeah. What's the criteria?
I don't know. I don't.
If Gronk goes in first time. Do you think
he's going to because it's all about the rings?
Outside of the rings, do you think Gronk was better than Antonio Gates?
Oh God, no. No.
At the very worst, I think it was close. Right? At the very worst, it was close. But I would not. So that's kind of crazy. Yeah. So Gronk better not go in first ballot. I'm remembering tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So, Joe, tell the people where they can find you. We're going to wrap up this little shindig. Tell the people about what you do and where to see you.
Oh, yeah. No, I got a YouTube channel. You can always see me ranting on Twitter as well. But Philly, the podcast on Twitter and all the socials at Philly TP. I cover the Eagles mostly every day. Go to all these events. You know what I'm saying? God bless to be credentialed to some of them and be able to cover these birds as much as I do. But I like to have fun, like to talk that talk and complain when I have to. And Christian McCaffrey's Offensive Player of the Year. Shout out to him.
Did that just come through? Yeah, well, that's...
Yeah, well, that had to just come to my attention while I'm trying to be happy about stuff.
Yeah, but again, that's a very deserving one.
Oh, definitely. Who do you think will get the MVP?
It should be Lamar. It should be Lamar. In my opinion,
if it's like Josh Allen,
it can't be Josh Allen. It cannot be Josh Allen. First off, Lamar played an entire season. The only game he sat was to rest for the playoffs, and it's not a postseason award. It's a regular season award, and he had the best numbers. I think Lamar Jackson, and again, did it without his best weapon in Mark Andrews for most of the season.
What if Dak won it? Well, how would you feel about that?
Dak should not even be in a comp. If he gets a single vote, first, second, or third place, the award is a joke.
I mean, regular season, they were killing it.
No. Anybody that loses to the Cardinals does not deserve.
True. You're right.
That's why Jalen doesn't get a single vote either this year.
Yeah, you're right. I'll take that. That's a perfect. Yeah, I'm interested to see who wins it because I know somebody's going to be mad. This is like the first year that everybody has a kind of an argument.
I would be more angry if Brock Purdy wins it.
Yeah, I don't want Brock Purdy. I would be happy if Christian won it. If Christian McCaffrey sleep, go ahead.
Agreed. If somehow a non-quarterback wins the MVP award, great.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be repulsive if Brock Purdy wins it.
Yeah, I would hate Brock Purdy. I wouldn't even mind seeing Tyreek Hill. I wouldn't even mind that.
I was surprised Tyreek Hill didn't win Offensive Player of the Year, but Christian McCaffrey really is that switchblade.
Yeah, you can't. If anybody, you lose that to anybody, it makes sense. I mean, and there's not much you can do. Christian McCaffrey can do everything. So I get it.
But this has been awesome. We talked about the Senior Bowl. We talked about the Super Bowl. Oh, wait, real quick. The drama that I mentioned. Asante Samuel came out of nowhere and slapped down Donovan McNabb. Your thoughts?
I think he's right, to be honest. I didn't listen to the full clip. Context may have been lost.
Right. The gist of it is that Donovan, even in practice, wasn't doing what he needed to do. And Asante Samuel went and complained to the coaches about Donovan.
Yeah, I mean, that's all right. My understanding was correct. Yeah, I think he was completely right. I think that and I say this all the time to people that probably don't want to hear it and don't really care and just said, "Hey, how are you doing?" So probably a little bit out of space when I say it, but that was what him and T.O. is what got Andy Reid fired. The fact that he could not handle T.O. and Donovan McNabb's situation better or at least longer is what got him fired because that was our and then
he lost the locker room from there.
Yeah, that was our best chance. Once you get disrespected, nobody wants to listen to you. So, that I always say that's why we lost Andy Reid. So I think that Donovan McNabb got to a point where he was just a chunky soup eating diva. Like I've had, shout out to my boy Brandon. We had an interview with Hollis Thomas, and he asked him about the whole situation, and he was very candid. I don't think I've ever seen Hollis Thomas not candid about it, but he straight up said, and I quote because I'll never forget this. He was like, "It was just two bitches, two grown ass bitches that couldn't get their shit together." That's what he quoted the Terrell Owens and McNabb stuff as. And if you have that when you're in a room of grown men. That's it. I'm not gonna respect you. You can't handle this.
By the time you get to that point in your career, you gotta be a little more professional. You gotta figure out a way to make it work. People I work with, I mean, I love the people I work with, but they're not all my best friends. They're acquaintances, and I know how to deal with their ins and outs.
Exactly. Yeah. So I love Andy Reid though.
I do too. And again, if he wins another one, that's cool. But
should have been us.
tired of the Chiefs. All right. So again, this has been the AAT Birds Weekly Report. Make sure you are liking, subscribing, following, clicking that notification button. We are very active on Twitter. We are very active on Instagram. We have just now become very active on TikTok. And I know that because I'm the one running the TikTok. So make sure if you are somebody who goes by that clock watch thing, you're following us there. I think I still remember this dance. That one.
There you go.
I do that for my middle school kids. They're like, that was so 3 years ago. I'm like, what do you want me to do? And then I'll floss. And they say, you need to stop it.
They'll teach you what you got to do next. They'll get you viral.
But Joe, I want to appreciate you for coming on tonight. I am Chip at Chip for the Birds, and as we end every show here on the AAT Sports Network, we end it with a very positive and now very hopeful, go Birds!
Go Birds.
This is Matt Ware. Hey, for all the Eagle content you need, go follow All About the Birds. They do a damn thing. Check them out.
Hey, Eagles fans, I may be in Tampa, but I know where to find the best Eagles content out there. Check out my friends at All About the Birds.
Philadelphia, what's up? This your boy Freddie Mitchell, a.k.a. Fred X. It's all about the bird.
All birds all the time. All birds all the time.
All About the Birds provides you with weekly analysis, game recaps, informative interviews, and it's all birds all the time.